Okay, I believe we are about to be live. Yes, here we go. So, hello everyone. Hope everyone's doing great. It's afternoon for me, but morning for some, especially for my guest who is joining us today. So, we have an amazing treat, everyone. I wanted to, first of all, welcome. Yes, if you're joining live, hi, we see you. Good to have you on. My name is Elise Beckles, and I'm the founder of the French tutor and also an education entrepreneur coach who helps other educators grow their businesses. And it's always my pleasure to speak to other entrepreneurs and hear a little bit more about their story and their expertise. And today I have an incredible person joining us. So I have someone who I got to meet in person just last fall. And when I met Jake, we had a fantastic in-person connection, conversation. And Jake is actually an email marketing expert who's helped his clients generate over $10 million in revenue. So I said, Jake, we have to get on a call. We have to connect and have a conversation and get to know you a little bit better. So, Jake, welcome. How are you?
Yeah, thanks, Elise. It's great to chat with you. It was so good to get to jam in the fall. And yeah, I love what you're doing and stoked to jam and share what I know about email and yeah, just rock and roll wherever the convo goes.
Amazing, amazing. So, Jake, I would love if you just kind of introduce yourself to the audience, let them know, talk your talk. Who's Jake?
Yeah, loaded question. I'm like, wow, I could take that question, that answer in many ways. I'm an email marketing nerd, a surf lover. I'm very passionate about storytelling. My journey into this kind of career path started when I was 18. I essentially was going through a sort of a meant like existential, but also like health crisis. I dropped out of school, hopped on a flight to Guatemala, spent 4 months backpacking without a cell phone, knew about 3 words of Spanish, ended up publishing a book, kind of like a young dude version, Eat, Pray, Love, meets Into the Wild, but with a happy ending. This was
Yeah.
about 8 or 9 years ago. And then, yeah, I started speaking at high schools, colleges, gave a TED talk, and learned about putting myself out there, how to sell books, how to yeah, just get this message out, which I was really passionate about. And then I met my business partner and mentor, and we started a company helping people give TED Talks because he'd given a bunch. And that was really how I got into email marketing. I just naturally like loved words. And I was like, okay, how can I like use words in a way that makes revenue for the business? And we started that, did quite well. And then I've gone on to help a lot of different companies and coaches grow their business with email.
That's amazing. So, what a story, what a powerful, I would say, background and human experience because you were living obviously some human things as you were building a business as well. And I'd love to hear from you. What would you say is a defining moment in your journey? You could even focus on just the entrepreneur side or the personal side of things that changed the way that you viewed life. Like, what was that defining moment?
Yeah, it's funny, like I remember this so clearly. I think it was the defining moment, at least of my adulthood or the way my life's changed. But I was in a conversation with a career counselor. I was a Dean's List student my first semester at college. I was going down the path that I thought was, laid out for me. And this career counselor, like she knew I had this desire to travel and experience like a different way of life. And I was just really like mentally not in a good place with school. And it wasn't for like lack of effort. I just felt like my soul, mind, body, spirit needed something else. And so she asked me 2 questions. First, she said, okay, what's the worst thing that would happen if you like left school? And then my mind went to like becoming, a beggar on the street for the rest of my life and just being this like failure. And as I like said it out loud, it was like funny, right? Because I'm like, oh, realistically, I have friends, I have family, like this is probably not going to happen. But in my mind, it was like this heavy thing. And then she said, okay, well, like what's the best thing that could happen? And then I had this like
Ah,
visualization of like traveling, having this wonderful experience and writing a book. And I was just like, okay, I'm doing it. And then I dropped out of school and flew home like 3 days later. And that was the start of the rest of my life.
Wow. So this is interesting coming from someone who works in the education space, right? So you're dropping out of school, and there's probably some people who have some either younger ones or some not so younger ones who may feel either called or just feel like, man, like I'm trying to design and do my life a different way. And I'm open to both angles. I believe education is a vehicle, but I also believe some people's vision could take them alternate routes. Okay, that's maybe my outside the box thinking in the space that I'm in. So, what would you then say to your younger self who was facing that crossroads? Like looking back now, obviously, I'm sure that you were in a valley of decision for a while. Like, is this the right thing to do? Going back, what's the conversation you would have with that Jake?
Yeah, well, I think one note I would say to parents, because would speak at high schools and colleges about mental health. And so a
Yeah.
lot of times I'm talking to kids who are saying stuff like, yeah, about my parents. And then also the parents are talking to me because I think the intention of any parent, right, is like they want the best for their kids. So it's like the
Right.
intention is usually coming from a pure place. Um, and I think looking back and like the world is so different, right? Like 10 years ago versus today, and it's will be different in 10 years. And I think even just thinking about like to me, education is lifelong. And there's, traditional structures which work really well for some kids, and there's
Sure.
also people I think like myself who are very like self-motivated, self-directed. And also, I should preface, I kind of knew I was dropping out, but technically I took a leave of absence.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, I knew I didn't want to come back, but I think just keeping your options open because like I could go back to school if I really needed or wanted to. So I think I would just tell that younger version of myself, like, it's okay to go in a different direction. I think I was so terrified of going against the common kind of grain and like feeling like, oh, I'm a failure if I do it differently. Or like I almost felt like I
Right.
couldn't handle college because at the time I was mentally struggling with it. I didn't even know what anxiety was. I was like, going through all that. And I wish you would have known like it's okay that you're needing to take some time off, or it's okay that you're doing it a different way. And I think I almost feel like that's like an important message for parents too, for their kids. Like,
On.
not everyone is going to be in the cookie cutter path. And I think when I was able to align what drives and what pulls me, like at that greater vision, then like I was able to kind of like thrive more. And so, I'm not a parent, so I don't know what that's like, but to be,
They might come for
allow
us in the
your
comments.
Yeah, but to allow, allow your kid to like find their zone and nurture that, whatever that, whether it's, speaking French or whether it's, studying architecture, just to stoke that fire that's already within them.
Yeah, and that I think is good. That's like life. That's like a life tip that you're offering because sometimes, yeah, we do get a little bit caught up in the cookie cutter aspect, and all of a sudden, if we're not in alignment with that, it's almost there's a penalty or a consequence that we experience that may not have to be the case if there is an open-minded, let's say, environment that you're exposed to and that supports that decision making, obviously with conversation, probably as a parent with guidance and questioning, not just let's say blind decision making. But yeah, I think you're opening up maybe some thoughts for people that perhaps wouldn't have been there before. So thank you for that. All right. So I want to get a little bit more insight because I know for me as a business owner, for others, email has, if it has not yet for some, it is, I would say, one of the most important aspects for you to dive deeper into, to get started on, to make sure that's happening for your business. So tell me a little bit more about your email marketing entry, like where you came to kind of get the learnings of how important it is and what you've been able to do with it.
Yeah, it really started with that first business I helped start, which was the TEDx business. We started, it was called Idea Collective. Now it's called Thought Leader. And really, we went from 0 to $2.5 million in 2 years, like every sale came through email. So it's mind blowing. I got into it because just the natural way we built the company, it was like I was owning pretty much delivery. Um, we started with an online course, and then like I was owning marketing, and then he was owning sales and kind of like vision of the company. I was like integrator. And I just was like learning, okay, the traditional grammar of writing doesn't necessarily apply to like email marketing and copywriting. There's a different
Right.
way to do it. But I think as long as you are, at least for me, like I loved writing and storytelling. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna just learn this new medium of email marketing. And it was a lot of trial and error. Like I wasn't traditionally trained. I just was like, okay, these emails seem to do well. These don't. These emails are booking sales calls and getting high open rates and click rates. These emails aren't. So it was a lot of just learning in that regard. And yeah, like seeing, okay, we know that, getting clear with like the different numbers, like from we were running ads, we knew for every, let's say $100 we're spending on ads, we're making 400 on the other side of, so it was like, oh, we just need to like add fuel to the fire. So it was like this whole experiment of like understanding and learning about running ads, an entire funnel from like point of entry, whether it's the ad or however someone's discovering you, nurturing them with emails, getting them onto a call based on their behavior, decision making, writing emails that are like relevant and aligned to where they're at in that prospect to customer journey. And it's, to me, it's just fun. It's a blend of psychology
Yeah.
and storytelling. And I think writing that line effectively is like the HubSpot did a study, and it's the average return on investment for companies who use email marketing is 36 to 1, which is just
Wow.
mind blowing. That's for every dollar you spend,
Wow.
you make 36 back. And then there's nuances where if you segment, companies who segment have like an 800% higher return on investment, which is essentially just, as it sounds, like segmenting, splitting. So for example, I'm just using your business as an example. If you have people who opt into your list and they're interested about growing their online business from a tutoring business, you could have people who've started their business or people who want to start, and they're getting very different sets of emails because they're in different places. So you're speaking to where they're at, and essentially, like the more relevant you are, the more higher click rates and effectiveness of the emails, which just makes sense, right? Because it's like relevant and targeted.
Absolutely. And for me, I'm even thinking I stay subscribed to certain email marketers that I observe and I admire. I know some people are sometimes emails for them feel like noise and oh, unsubscribe, unsubscribe. For me, I like to subscribe to things to kind of see, like, probably something you're interested in too. Like, what's their nurture series? How is that making me feel? What are they doing to kind of keep their customers? So, talk to us, Jake, a little bit more because there's people who are watching this who may not have, they're focusing maybe on other social media platforms and completely not thinking about the importance of email. So, why email? Let us know why email is something that should be on their radar ASAP.
Yeah. Well, I was first just laughing because I'm subscribed to so many newsletters and yeah, I have like all this organization. It's a whole thing, but it's important, right? Because especially when I'm doing work for clients, I'll opt into the 5 to 10 best leaders
Absolutely.
in the space. I'm like, okay, here's what the best people are doing. Here's what they're talking about. So it's like your market research. I think,
Yeah.
when it comes to business, and it depends where someone's at in their journey, like typically if you're under 10 to 15K a month, you can start with email, but I think it's once you get to that like 20K a month mark, oftentimes people are like, hey, I'm like burnt out. I'm, doing all this stuff on LinkedIn. And once you kind of start running ads, especially if you start running ads, like email is a must. It's an absolute
Mhm.
must.
Yes.
And I'll
Agreed.
basically share why. There's a couple things that I think are why email is so effective. One, the algorithms of these social media apps can change at any time. Emails direct from you to the person. So there's not like a middleman in the way that Instagram can just tweak an algorithm and you have a hundred
Sure.
thousand followers and you're getting 50 likes now. So with email, it's direct. And then I think there's so many other benefits with email. But it's automated. So, or I should say a big portion of it can be automated. So like with a nurture sequence, right? And then when you have these segmented sequences, you set it up once and obviously you have to tweak it to like make sure it works. But once it's set up, you've kind of done like 70 to 80% of the work. And that's something that I love about email. It's so effective and once you get that initial part set up, then it's optimizing and, sending out maybe monthly or bi-monthly or however frequent you want to email your list. But that like
Yeah.
core nurture sequence is set up. And so it gives the business owner freedom to like, okay, now that this is set up, I just need to get more leads because the nurturing to get them on a sales call, that part of the process is done. So it creates essentially freedom. People who are stressed and like their energy is burnt out, email is a way to like take off a lot of that heavy lifting and it just does it for you. Like quite literally, it's automated.
Right on. And that is such a beautiful thought. I know for a lot of the entrepreneurs who may be doing a lot of things more manual, having even having a conversation in a sense without having to have the conversation through email is such a powerful tool. Absolutely. And Jake, how would you help your clients? So help us understand like what would Jake do in his role if you were to partner with another entrepreneur or other companies? How does that go?
Yeah, I think it sort of depends. Some companies want me to just like own the process. They're like, write our emails, manage our list, like do it all. And I'm like, cool. So that's like one option. Another
Yeah.
option is sometimes companies don't have or they have a poor like nurture sequence or lead magnet, like that whole process. So I'll come in, I'll do an audit on their funnel and email, and then I'll basically recreate that, especially if they have a launch coming up or just their email is not working. I'll come in and do a whole rebrand. And really, I think the big part here too is I'm not just writing emails. It's really like a big part because now AI, and that's a whole nother thing that I'm helping
Yeah.
companies do now is setting up their AI with Claude. So that's something I've been stepping more into is teaching people how to automate their email content and social media content using Claude. So that's another thing. If people are like, hey, just help me set up my Claude so then I can have a content schedule. But I think the big thing that I would want to point out here is with AI getting to be like so effective, what really matters is like the positioning and framing. So you could have the best email sequence like technically, but if it doesn't actually align with your target audience, it doesn't work. Like you could have the best system, but you need the content to align and you need to make sure you're speaking to the right target audience. So in order for to have A to B to C to D to E, everything connect, you need to make sure you have someone who like understands the game and understands how each part connects. And I think that's something a lot of people miss is it's not cohesive. And so when I work with someone, it's like, okay, we're going to map out each part of this process and then create the emails, but it has to start with the foundation. So, yeah, that was sort of a long way to say I help them
Oh,
with
good. Well,
obviously
this
their
is
email
so interesting for me. Like
marketing,
it's like,
but I think, yeah, yeah, but I think
yeah.
the how and the foundation is what a lot of people maybe miss or don't consider is like the target audience research and making sure that's really dialed. And then we move into the strategy and then it's the creation.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think that's what keeps me plugged in as well to the emails I subscribe to for other companies because it's may not be my need or my desire right now, but there's something in there that is interesting and that is keeping me reading or it's like, yeah, I have this need or I have this potential future want and this person is speaking to that. That the conversation makes sense to who it's going to. So that's really
Yep.
cool. It's really neat. Okay. And that sounds like a whole lot. I will say that because your you have different voices, tones, branding that you're consistently stepping into. So how do you actually manage through that? Like, is there maybe a process you initially go through with a client to understand exactly how to bring their messaging to light? Just for those who are a little bit confused, well, how do I communicate? Where do I start? What things do I need to consider?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great question. I use the ACE framework, which is audience clarity, content that converts, and then executing system and strategy. And so the first part of that is, and it's funny, I actually have a nurture sequence, which I can give you the link here for anyone who's interested in. And basically like, oh yeah, when they go into this nurture sequence, I have a messaging clarity sheet. So like I do this with clients. If someone wants to do this themselves, they can go through this process. Obviously, it's more helpful when you have someone guiding it. But if someone's like, just give me the questions, doing that first upfront research about who your ideal client is. And I know this, for some people, this might sound like business basics, but it's shocking to me every time I go in and do this process where the epiphanies people have, because when we're so close to our business, it's like all you're seeing is black here. But then when you
So
put
true.
your hand away, you're like, oh, that's a hand. But we're also this close to our business. So when you have someone else come in, they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize all these potential clients are saying the same word. Like for me, I learned that a lot of my people who work with me were like saying the same thing. I feel like I'm leaving money on the table. That's what they're saying. And I was like, oh my gosh, they keep saying this. So I'm going to use that in my marketing. For you, it could be parents saying a very specific thing. So we'll do a deep dive, figure out what their pain points are, what are their hopes and dreams, where are they stuck at specifically, what are the words they're using, what are the thoughts they're thinking. And then when you can like map that out into a document, that's the foundation. Then you can upload all of that information into a AI like Claude, which I use, and then you like prompt it. And this is where it gets so mind blowing. Like you can prompt it like, I teach 6 different content buckets, like, social proof, which is like testimonials and case studies. You have, of course, your call to actions, but like, addressing objections, like positioning and expertise, education and insight, like all these different buckets. You're like, based on these 6 content buckets, with everything I've given you with this product knowledge about this client, who they serve, help me create a content schedule. And then it will like spit you out a bunch of emails. The emails aren't perfect, but they're like 50 to 70% good. And then you have to like, if this was your business, at least we would like Elisify it. So like, there's the joke where everyone knows ChatGPT wrote it if the words are like unlock, let's unlock,
Unlock
unlock,
is
unlock.
the most
Right?
overused word currently in the online space. I'm like,
I
ChatGPT,
mean,
remove the word
right. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'm a little guilty of this because I help people unlock an extra 5 to 10K with their email list. But like, my point is, you can use all this upfront research and leverage, then you can like put it into these tools and it will give you an amazing, like, it will do so much of the upfront work. But I think where a lot of people get stuck is if you don't do that last 30% of like tweaking and modifying and like making it your own unique voice, then it won't convert because people just know it's this like generic robotic copy. It has to resonate, it has to invoke something in them. Like when you said, when you're reading an email or any piece of content and you have that feeling of like, holy shit, pardon my French. I had to say that because you're the French tutor. If you're like, oh my gosh, this is speaking to me, this is like evoking something, that's when you know that content is doing well. Like I always say, when you can speak to the fear or the dream or the objection your prospect has in their copy, and they're not even aware that they're having that, that's when you know your copy and your email is being super effective. Because they're like, oh my gosh, I think this, but I didn't even know how to articulate it. Boom, that's like a great sign your
yeah,
copy.
yeah. Someone gets me. You want your prospect to go, whoa, you get it. That's the connection. That's truly the connection point. Absolutely. Jake, so good. So good. This is like a mini master class, okay, for anyone who's a part of this right now. So if you could offer, okay, just one piece of advice to fellow entrepreneurs in, I guess for you, it's whatever industry, right? When it comes to email, what would that be?
Well, if you don't have your list, start your list. Just start collecting emails. And then I would say if you already have an email list, um, segment, even if you just do 2 different splits, just make the emails relevant to the people you're talking to. And just start. It's a journey, and it's like you have to start in order to like get past those roadblocks. But the ROI, and as you get your list gets bigger, It's so valuable for you. It helps you do joint ventures with other people. Like the list becomes so valuable, and nurture it, take care of it, because the ROI of it literally speaks for itself.
That's incredible. And I'll leave you with a fun question. What is that one, I don't know, give us maybe that one unconventional email that you did, or that one unconventional thing in business that you did that led to success? For those sometimes are afraid to try something a little bit new or something a little bit unfamiliar, what is that? Is that something you can share?
Yeah, well, what came to mind was like a specific email that performed super
Okay.
well. And it was like, I actually didn't even write this. They came up with it, but I was like, oh my gosh, because I was working with a client on this. And it was something like, it was, so let's say typically the emails are coming from me, Jake. It had a different from name, and it was like from Chris, for example. And it was like, hey, please forward to subscriber name. So let's say you were on my list. It would be like an email coming from Chris, who's my assistant, saying, please forward to Elise. So you see this email and you're like, please
Ah,
forward to me. What? And then it's like this forwarded message. It's not actually forward, so it's a little, cheeky. But it's like, hey, Jake asked me to forward you this information to book a call, and the open rates were like like double as high, and so that's a really effective email to use that to like actually get calls booked. And I've seen that firsthand. So that's a very tactical email, but I've
yes.
seen it work well.
That's really cool. Someone should listen to that and run with that one as a test. I would say, okay, so Jake, let the
Or back.
people know where, yeah, right? Let the people know, because email is such a huge need in conversation. So let everyone know where they can find you, learn a little bit more, connect with you a little bit deeper. Where would those platforms be?
Yeah, so my name's Jake Heilbrunn. Last name is Heilbrunn. And I'm most active, I would say, on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. YouTube's obviously going to be a little bit more of a deeper dive with videos and stuff. And then my website's missionamplify.com. So you can go out there and get the nurture sequence. And if you are interested in working with me or learning more, send me a note, whether there or on social media.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And I will also link it under the video, Jake, if that's okay, so people can kind of click and get some more insights.
Yeah, and I'll drop you that link so you can share it, of course.
Thank you so much. All right. So thank you everyone again for joining us. It was super cool to chat with Jake and learn a little bit more. I wish we could chat longer because, like I said, Jake is a wealth of knowledge. So we appreciate all the gems that he's dropped today. And yeah, if you want to explore more, which you should, look out for the link just below. All right. Have a good one, every guys. Take care.